started. We are granting what constitutes an extraordinary privilege, and we don't, well, I hope this will not be a precedent, but we have granted Mr. Spivey a short period of time to make a presentation, and I hope he will respect short and let us go on with our normal workshop. So with that, we'll let you get started.
Yes, sir, it will be short. I have an outline for you to show the time periods. It will take a total of 27 minutes for you to see everything that we have today.
Yeah, well, 27 minutes is going to be the maximum. Thank you.
Ja, schrifting moet je en je
We have again, sir?
Yes, sir.
Hello, I'm Howard Spiva. On behalf of Shante Greene and her two little boys, I thank y'all for this extraordinary privilege to be able to speak with you today.
Is Ms. Greene here?
She will be, sir. It's my honor and my privilege to represent Ms. Greene. And we're here today to ask the City Council to help a citizen who is in trouble. There's been a horrible injury that was caused to her by a neglected and dangerous tree. Despite this tragedy, she is a hero. Let me start this by saying there's 4 things that will show you her character and why she is a hero. She saved her nephew's life the instant before this tree hit her lap by moving his head from her lap. She then rose out of the hospital bed after 35 surgeries with a positive attitude, standing strong on her one leg. She is often heard saying that she wants to return to work, and you're going to see her wonderful spirit in just a moment in a video. Her inspirational attitude is shown by her going out into the community to churches and schools and speaking and offering encouragement to others that are in wheelchairs. Finally, the 4th reason, and the most impressingly, and one of the reasons that I'm here today, is she has asked us to find a way to prevent this from happening to anyone else. Our request today is simple. It's for this council to do something instead of waiting for a 4 or 5 year lawsuit for this to come before them, to do the right thing, to direct its counsel, its attorney, and to direct risk management to save the city a long drawn-out lawsuit, the cost of trial, the cost of defense attorneys, and possibly years of appeal. As you will see today, there's no justifiable reason why this lady should not get immediate resolution for her medical recovery. This case needs to be mediated so that it can be resolved. A famous quote that applies is, "Justice delayed is justice denied." Imagine, if you will, it's 3 a.m. The trauma unit at Memorial Hospital calls your house. They're calling to tell you that a loved one is in the hospital. Well, your first thoughts, I submit to you, are not, oh no, my loved one's going to have $760,000 worth of medical bills. Oh no, my loved one is going to have $2 million worth of future medicals and years of lost wages. The reason you don't think that, ladies and gentlemen, is because the medical bills and the lost wages aren't what's most important when we have someone who is seriously injured. You wonder, will they live? Will they be okay? Will they suffer? Will they experience permanent disability? How will it affect their life, their children? I suggest to you that what you're about to see, that if a jury sees this, that based on our focus group, this will be the largest jury verdict in Savannah Chatham County's history. But a jury trial is unnecessary if we do what we should do. Now, I'll direct your attention to a brief 9-minute video, and then I'll come back and finish up. Andre, would you play it? All right, sir.
WSAV was first on the scene as they pulled one person free. Andrew Davis was there as it all went down. And Andrew, this all happened just a block away from the station.
It did, Russ. I actually ran out there right from the station just to see it just moments afterwards. Getting onto the scene, all you could see was tree, no truck. It was only after I moved to the other side that I actually got a good look at just how bad this was. Firefighters and paramedics working furiously to pull a woman from a crushed truck. A tree broken in half, all its weight on top, branches through the windshield. Folks who lived just moments away were witnesses to the crash.
I heard bam after that, and I said, oh my God, it fell on a car or the truck. And then I immediately called 911.
Pauline Taylor was in her car just in front of the tree when it fell.
And the first thing, you know, my daughter said, Mama, the tree falling, the tree falling.
Taylor immediately stopped that car and went to help.
I jumped out the car immediately and ran to the car and grabbed the little baby out the car.
2 other people were still inside, a man who was eventually able to free himself, a woman who was still trapped.
The whole tree just blocked, just caved in on his truck.
That's where firefighters came in, chainsaws in hand, trying to get the tree off the car so she could escape. After minutes of frantic work, finally, success. She's on the way to the hospital with serious injuries. All that's left is a huge pile of branches over top of a truck. And then you can see what was left after the tree was gone. The truck absolutely crushed. They really made a big difference in my mind, Russ, in helping save a life. And the other people really inside should be truly lucky that they are still alive. It's something we hope we'll never have to see, especially so close anytime again.
Yeah, hopefully the person who was injured will be okay. Well, definitely not something that you see every day, but within the hour today, we saw it twice. A Savannah Square roped off because a massive oak also.
Shante was hospitalized from July 2nd, 2010 through August 3rd. Her medical records state that a large tree limb impaled Shante in her right groin and pelvis, necessitating the complete amputation of her right leg at the pelvis. Shante suffered multiple injuries, including a closed head injury with pneumocephalus, or air within her cranial cavity due to trauma, an open pelvic fracture with right hip disarticulation. In addition, portions of her right thigh, hip, perineum, vagina, and rectum were torn away. As a result, her right leg was amputated. A surgical ileostomy was also performed on Shante, which she will have to endure for at least 4 years, and possibly for the rest of her life. Shante also suffered injuries to her iliac artery and a vein injury, as well as a bladder laceration and acute blood loss resulting in anemia.
Just 5 months ago, she was trapped under a tree, fighting for her life. Tonight, Shante Greene is talking exclusively to News 3 about the ordeal that day and her battle ever since. It was back in July we showed you the incredible scene as firefighters worked to pull Greene out of a car and from under a tree. 35 surgeries later, she lost a leg, but not her spirit. Hear from Shante for the first time tonight on News 3 at 11. This survivor spoke exclusively to News 3's Andrew Davis about her ordeal and what's next.
Seen something from the sky falling, and I don't remember nothing after that.
A tree falling on the car she was in while it was moving. She was the victim, cut out of that car, her leg severed at the hip.
Kept trying to throw the leg off, and I kept saying, you know, why can't this move?
After months of hospital stays, surgeries, and rehab, Greene came home without a leg, with the determination, though, to continue life for herself and the kids.
As long as they're smiling, that will give me the motivation to get up every morning and do what I got to do.
That's why it's so hard for her this Christmas, months of hospital stays and bills, no job, no money for Christmas presents for little Jaquel and Daquan.
My oldest son tells me that it don't matter if you're not getting anything, as long as I came home. I think that every child should have a Christmas, and that, I don't know, as I grew up, I never have not had Santa to come to my house, so I would not want him not to come to see my kids.
A Christmas wish Shante has for her kids, which would help make her dreams of a normal life a little bit easier.
I'm just thankful just to be here. You know, some people don't get to see life again, don't get to see their kids. So the most important thing to me is that I got to see my kids again.
In Savannah, Andrew Davis, WSAV News 3.
Well, Greene has already accumulated more than $500,000 in medical bills. She's looking into filing a lawsuit against the city to help pay those bills. Before that happens, she hopes to...
We all take for granted getting up from a seat, but Shante Greene has to do it all on one foot. This is the first step for Shante and David Puckett of Positive Image, now casting the socket of her prosthetic leg, which is the spot where her hip will sit, and attach the artificial limb. The idea is to make it as comfortable as possible for Shante and easy to use. It's a challenging procedure for Dr. Puckett and for Shante, but both say they're up for the challenge.
She'll need a prosthetic foot, prosthetic shank, prosthetic knee. That will give her good stability. And a very effective prosthetic hip, and even most importantly, a very well-fitted prosthetic socket.
This is the first step. Shante getting encased in plaster, making a mold of her hip to create a socket where her new leg will eventually sit.
Stand up real tall, honey, if you can. There you go. I know it's tough. It's really tough, I know.
For minutes at a time, holding on as Puckett works and the plaster solidifies, but Shante isn't about to give up because this isn't just about her.
My family that I have in the house with me, they would keep me going. They stuck by me and they made sure I get up every morning. So I pay the favor back by continuing to get up and fight hard every day. So it's worth it.
This is just the beginning. It's going to get harder from here. But Shante says she's ready for the challenge, ready to walk again.
I guess if you want something so bad that you really want it, here's the day.
The day Shante Greene's been waiting for.
No more sitting down for me. It's just standing up.
Standing on a new prosthetic leg thanks to David Puckett of Positive Image Prosthetics and Orthotics.
One step at a time is really taking on a new meaning.
This metal C-leg is programmed, tweaked, and calibrated. Every step is a big step forward.
So far, Shante has incurred medical expenses in excess of $786,000, which will only increase. A prosthetic C-leg will cost approximately $80,000 at least every other year. With the remaining life expectancy of 50.67 years, that is an estimated cost of over $2 million. The pain, suffering, and emotional distress associated with the loss of a leg are overwhelming. Shante also continues to experience the loss of enjoyment of life, decreased strength and mobility, as well as irritability, sleeplessness, difficult and painful physical therapy, and permanent physical limitation. Hedonic damages are the damages associated with the loss of enjoyment of life. Before the injury, Shante was a very active and outgoing young woman and busy mother of 2 energetic boys. Shante wakes up to her injuries and limitations every day of her life. With a life expectancy of 50.67 years remaining, she will endure these damages for a long time to come.
Mr. Mayor,
Wait, one moment. I had no idea that we were going to try this case before City Council. So I'm going to ask our city attorney whether or not we should proceed with this, or what is your advice to us? Because this is much different than I thought we were giving you the privilege to present. It appears to me that I'm sitting here like a jury, and I'm not going to put the City Council in that position. I have no idea that we're going to have this kind of presentation, which would be the kind of presentation you would make in a trial.
Well, plus it now may be subject to a change of venue request because the people have it will be aired on public TV, and it has been prejudiced.
Correct. So
Mr. Mayor.
I'm stopping this until I get some ruling from our council as to whether to allow this to proceed. And I know where you're going with this, so I need counsel now.
Mr. Attorney, can I respond to you briefly before you?
No, I want to hear my attorney now.
Okay.
Mr. Spiva, very correctly, when this issue arose, and we have the department people involved here to listen. Under the law, he must give notice of the possible claim. As everyone has seen, and as I'm sure he would acknowledge, this has been ongoing since the date this thing happened. He has to give notice of the claim within 6 months. That was properly done by his office. We have to respond to that within really, we try to respond within the 30-day time frame through our risk management procedures. This is acknowledged that it happened, and no one questions that it happened. However, the issue of legal liability is there, number one. The claim is there, but as he has stated, it has not been really pinned down to an absolute demand as to something. So no negotiations have taken place with those two issues. One is liability. The tree cover and the maintenance of tree cover is not an absolute, and the lawyers all know this, and there is a question of whether or not there is a governmental immunity, and it's not in position and has not been brought to the council or through the regular claims procedure process that we have, although, as Howard will acknowledge also, and we basically have it calendared, we know when his time is going to run out. He knows when that is. But the position of the city's risk management is basically the question of legal liability. Now, he is here, and although it is highly unusual for such a presentation, it's my opinion that he filed the proper petition. Our legal department and risk management department denied the claim, even though we had to make a decision on the question of legal liability without reference to the information that he has presented to you. Now, at some point, and when he can make an absolute demand, there are numerous ways of coming to grips with this from a legal standpoint as to whether or not there is any liability, or if there is any way to find a method by which you can do this. And that has not been reached. It's a little unusual, but anytime you file a petition to council, you're entitled to be heard. So a petition came before you asked to be heard. And he has now been heard. I think you can have some control over what is being presented from a factual standpoint, but he certainly can make an argument. However, the problem with the argument is you can't just, it has to be liquidated. We have to determine if there's liability, and number two, if so, what are the damages? And I'm sure he will tell you that that will be a very difficult factual determination in both instances. It will be. The liability angle has not been determined, and as he said, it takes some length of time. And if this council, I do not see any action you can take today on this, except he has come and asked that his petition really remain, and that within the time frame that he has to file his lawsuit, that he has to come to grips with what his demand is, what he seeks to ask from you.
All right.
So beyond that, I think...
Mr. Blackburn.
Oh, well, wait a minute. Number 3, comments on responsibility and fault. We are not prepared to deal with that. Video on cause of tree failure. We're not prepared to deal with that. And we're just not going to go forward with this anymore.
Mr. Blackburn,
that's my ruling.
I understand, but Mr. Blackburn, I asked for a city council hearing, and I agreed to come to this instead of to the public. And
well,
I was told,
you knew what you were doing.
Sir, may I just finish? I understand your position. I asked for 27 minutes. I have 14 minutes left to answer his question, and I have it.
No.
This will end up being a lawsuit that will be here long after you're gone, sir, and this is important to the citizen. And if you can't give me 12 minutes to hear what I have to say, you don't have to answer anything. Then it goes to a litigation and costs the city, us, a lot of money. And that's not fair to allow us to come here and then to cut us off when we're almost finished.
We had no prior knowledge.
Sir, I asked for a half an hour, and I was told I could have more if I wanted it. And I said I needed 27 minutes.
Who told you that?
Whoever is charged with setting these meetings up, sir.
My ruling is that we will not go further with this. This is a legal matter, and we will not go further.
I can answer his questions if you would just give me the courtesy of 12 minutes. That's all I'm asking for you. This lady has lost her leg, and you can't give me 12 minutes?
We're not seeing any more.
There's no more injury.
We're not seeing any more sensational videos.
It's not sensational. It's fact that this city took this lady's leg, sir.
You're trying to create an environment favorable to your client.
Absolutely, to this council.
We have a responsibility to protect the rights of this council and our purse strings, which you are trying to get into. Now, I have a lot of sympathy for the injury that was occurred, but it is a legal matter now. You've already filed.
No, we have not filed suit, sir.
No,
we don't want your sympathy.
But
will you give me 12 minutes, please, for this lady? She's here to meet you. You don't have to make a decision. I just ask you on her behalf. She's a citizen.
All right, somebody get a clock and give this man his 12 minutes.
I got it.
All right.
Mr. Mayor, thank you very much. I guess y'all saw why I said admire her, and you're going to get to meet her in a few minutes. Before we made the decision to take this case and bring it before council, we asked ourselves, what was the cause of this tragedy? After all, isn't a tree nature, and doesn't it fail as an act of God? Sure, if it's a healthy tree and lightning strikes it or a hurricane. We tried to anticipate all of the possibilities and the likely causes that might be raised and the questions that this council might have. So what we did was we looked at some things. First of all, we looked at the weather. The weather was clear. There was nothing out of the ordinary for July. There was no rain, no strong winds, no hurricane, and no lightning. We considered, did the driver of the truck do anything wrong? He was in his correct lane of travel and traveling down B Road in a legal manner. Shante was on her way home from work and a negligent-free passenger. We asked, did the city violate any industry standards? We learned that they did. We learned that on a 12-point danger scale, this tree scored a failing scale of 11 out of 12. Next, we located former city employees. We interviewed them. We learned that Dr. Gardner, the former director of Park and Trees, had drafted a preventative maintenance program that would have virtually eliminated this type of danger. Mr. Gardner left the city. He is an expert on trees. Other employees have left who agree with his program. We asked who is in charge of our trees now and keeping our city safe. We learned that the Park and Tree Department has been ironically moved under the Department of Cemeteries. Now, Jerry Fleming in that department is a great guy. He's an arborist, and he understands trees. But to take a department that's already on a shoestring budget and to move it to another department, in our opinion, is not a sound move. Parking trees have been around since 1896. It was formed to guard our squares and our trees. And all of us take pride in the role of taking care of our trees and our beautiful tree cover. But we must do so in a manner that is safe for our citizens. We requested tree maintenance records from the city under the Open Records Act. We learned that this city has been to that tree repeatedly. We retained tree experts, professional arborists, and they taught us three things. A tree, its subparts, they're called codominant stems, are to be no larger than 33% of the base. This limb was 74% the size of the base. Sir, if you decided you were going to keep a pet alligator and you were told once it reached 5 foot that it would eat humans, this tree, this alligator, grew to 12 feet. The second thing we learned from arborists is you don't let ivy grow on trees. There's lots of reasons it harms them. The third thing we learned is that there's clear evidence at this tree that the city had been there repeatedly. Those three things are clear a failing tree. Anybody see in the first clip the limb on the car with all the black carpenter ants crawling on the car? Ask yourself why there's decay nest building ants all over a tree. We researched sidewalks being built next to trees. We learned that it used pavers next to a tree. Concrete kills the root systems of trees and it starts the time ticking like a bomb. It's like the movie Robinson Crusoe. He knew Friday was on the island not because he saw him, but he saw footprints in the sand. These are the footprints. The city started the fuse burning when they installed a city sidewalk. The limb failure, the second limb failure, the ivy on the tree, the ant nest, and a dangerously oversized limb hanging over our city street. It was a disaster waiting to happen. We all know that you protect trees that have concrete around them. One only needs to look at Johnson Square. Went by there today. It's all pruned, preventative maintenance. Trees in Johnson Square are very well maintained. The citizens on B Road and the people that travel on B Road deserve that same maintenance on their trees. People who know and understand trees knew this tree would fail. Why haven't we had these predictable trees failing in the 70s, 80s, 90s? I'll tell you why. Over 100 years ago, a little over 100 years ago, a hurricane wiped out all of our trees. We decided to build an urban forest. Well, those trees are now over 100 years old, and they're going to start failing. Our conclusion from all of these things is that it wasn't a natural cause. As a matter of fact, I can't honestly believe the memos that we've been sent where we're told the limb is 20 inches, there's no prior failing, there's no decay. I can't believe that this city or its attorney would stand in front of a jury and deny responsibility. Now, I have a brief couple-of-minute video that'll prove what I just said, and then I'm finished.
July 2nd, 2010, Shante Greene was a passenger in her cousin's pickup truck, riding down B Road on a clear, calm summer day, when in an instant, her life changed forever. The cab of the pickup truck was crushed by a huge oak limb, which at 34 inches in diameter was as big as a tree. The oak tree was located at the intersection of B Road and 42nd Street. The photograph on the left was taken of the tree in question before the incident. It documents the size of a limb before it fell, crushing both the pickup truck and Shante's pelvis. The tree that crushed Shante has a history of limb failures dating back several years that the city of Savannah was clearly on notice of. The city's own records obtained under the Open Records Act document a large limb that had fallen in the street at B Road and 42nd Street on July 17, 2007. Furthermore, the next year, on July 16, 2008, another limb was reported broken and hanging at this same location. Shante Greene, through her attorneys, have consulted with arborists who have conducted a study of the tree in question. They determined that the felled limb was extremely large, some 34 inches in diameter. The arborists note, the 34-inch limb that felled on July 2, 2010 is actually a codominant stem and was the largest of the 4 stems. The remaining stub from the felled stem is approximately 8 feet long. The report goes on to note the tree had not been well maintained, as evidenced by a large amount of English ivy growing on the main stem and into the crown. Furthermore, the experts who examined the tree photographed and documented evidence of the previous limb failures from before July 2nd, 2010. Their report states, the live oak had been pruned of several limbs in the past, and there was evidence of a large limb failure on the west side of a tree at approximately 30 feet above ground. Regarding the huge limb that injured Shante Greene, the experts state, the stem that failed was an extremely large codominant stem. The stem was 34 inches in diameter, which is 74% as large as the main stem. Ideally, a codominant stem should be no larger than 33% of the main stem. The felled stem was proportionately much too large for this tree, and it is not surprising that it failed. Based on a hazard rating system outlined in a photographic guide to the evaluation of hazard trees in urban areas, this tree would have scored an 11 out of 12 on the hazard rating scale. This means it was highly subject to failure and actually had a history of at least one limb failure. The arborist concluded, because of the massive size of this live oak, its proximity to a high traffic area, its structural problems, and its past history of limb failure, the tree should have been removed to prevent damage or injury. A municipality is liable for defects lying within its right-of-way of the public roads, where the defect has existed for a sufficient length of time for notice thereof to be inferred. The defects in its streets for which the city may be held liable have been held to include objects adjacent to and suspended over its streets and sidewalks, the presence of which renders the use of these thoroughfares more hazardous. It is well established that whether the defect was such as the city should have discovered the same in the exercise of ordinary care in keeping the streets and sidewalks in a reasonably safe condition is a question for the jury. The owner of a tree is liable for injuries from a falling tree if he knew or reasonably should have known the tree constituted a dangerous condition. When the tree is in an urban area and falls into a city street, there is no dispute as to the duty of reasonable care, including inspection, to make sure that the tree is safe. The cases of trees therefore suggest that the ordinary rules as to negligence should apply. In this case, the city's liability will clearly be determined by a jury. This case has clear liability, serious injuries, and substantial damages. No one can dispute the huge impact tourism has on Savannah's economy. Tourists from all over the world come to Savannah to experience its history, beauty, and charm. Savannah's majestic live oaks are an indelible part of Savannah. However, this tragedy could have happened to anyone, either tourist or resident. The devastating injuries suffered by Shante Greene are powerful evidence that if we want tree canopies over our streets in Savannah, then the public needs protection through vigilant tree inspection, coupled with the city fairly compensating people that are injured in such circumstances, especially in situations where, as here, the city has prior notice of a dangerous problem tree, such as the tree that cost Shante Greene her right leg.
Have its attorney and risk management to talk with us for mediation to prevent a long and costly lawsuit. I appreciate y'all's time in listening to us today. I apologize for any conflict. I think it's real simple. We either go out and trim the limbs on our trees or we have to buy new limbs for our citizens. And I respect your time, and I thank you very much.
All right, we will move on to the next item on the agenda.
Yes, as I leave the room, if anyone has a desire, Ms. Greene is here if anyone wants to meet her.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. We will proceed now with a presentation by Tom Vanderhorst, Tom, regarding proposed recommendations of a wine sampling ordinance. We've had a number of applications regarding wine sampling, and find that our regulations do not, at this point, really cover that. So he's here to propose a wine sampling ordinance. This is not on the agenda for today. We're simply reviewing it and then getting your feedback.
Good morning, Mayor and Alderman. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. I wanted to touch base with you on the
all right, we'll take a 5-minute break, please.
Thank you.
I told you I'd give you the opportunity to be there if you'd like to say hello to her. She's here. If you don't, that's fine. She's not the enemy. She's just a citizen here to ask for your help. You cannot like me, but I appreciate if you just say hello.
We did. A couple of us have already.
Where at?
In the
Fourth district.
Okay,
Yes.
I'm sorry. Mary Ellen's. Good luck with your recovery.
Oh, jeez. You know they got a lawsuit up the hill. Say I got a room full of witnesses.
I'll break your yard.
You're not gonna break my yard tomorrow. That's my day. Y'all saw it. Yes,
Suck it in on that. No.
Didn't have the camera.
I didn't.
Me either.
He told me he wanted to talk.
It is not on the agenda for today. However, we have received a number of applications regarding wine tasting, and so Tom will present some recommendations for the wine sampling ordinance. Tom.
Okay. I wanted to address a couple issues with the wine sampling. Currently, Revenue sells a wine sampling endorsement where a package store can purchase a license to sell wine by the bottle, and they're allowed